Good morning. Good morning. I'm Jeff Henderson, your worship associate this morning, and I have a few announcements for you before we begin our service. A warm welcome to everyone this morning, to those of you here in person and those watching on YouTube. At Gloucester UU, we create a home for people of many religious beliefs or none, people of different skin colors, different ages, different incomes, and different abilities. If you're full of joy, please come in. If your spirit is heavy, please come in. Our Unitarian Universalist heritage teaches us to keep love, never hate or fear, at the center of our beliefs and of our work in the world. As a welcoming congregation, we affirm the full inclusion of people of all sexual orientations and gender identities. A very warm welcome to any visitors with us this morning. If you'd like to get connected and learn more about our community life, please take a moment to fill out a yellow pew card located on the back of the seat in front of you, or sign the guest book in the vestibule. We hope that you will join us for refreshments downstairs in our social hall following the service, so we have a chance to connect in person. If you've been coming for a while and want to have a name tag made, there's a sign-up sheet at the back of the sanctuary on the table. And to make it easier for visitors and newer members to get to know everyone, let's get in the habit of wearing our name tags. Today, after the service, please join us to celebrate the end of the canvas for next year. Our celebration lunch will feature fish chowder from the Causeway, salads, and dessert. We've had a very successful canvas this year, so come help us celebrate. Come help us celebrate you, who made the canvas a success. Also, just as a reminder, we always welcome help cleaning up after a lunch. Please pitch in whenever you can, however you can, even bringing plates and cups to the kitchen window or dishwasher. Thanks in advance for that. A huge thanks to the more than 30 members of the congregation who joined us last Sunday in person and virtually for a facilitated conversation about how the church nourishes us as individuals and the greater Gloucester community. Participants will be receiving an email with notes and photos from the event in the coming week. If you are not at the event but would like a copy, please reach out to Julie Allen. She can be found in the new church directory. That's Julie Allen, who led the conversation. Our annual meeting is coming up after church on June 7th. After church on June 7th. The meeting takes place downstairs in the social hall immediately following the service. Lunch will be served. The meeting offers an opportunity to review church activities for the year. And also, we vote to approve the budget for next year, fiscal 2027, which begins on July 1st. This is an important event in the life of the church, on a way for you to become familiar with our operations and budget, and hear reports from the people who've been keeping things running all year. So please plan to attend if you can. The membership team will be holding the last Bring Your Own lunch for the church year this coming Friday, May 29th. Hope to see you there too. Be sure to check out the exhibit in the entry house gallery called To Survive on This Shore. That's right out there in the entry hall. This exhibit features portraits and biographies of older trans and non-binary people. We're glad to have this exhibit as part of Pride Month and want to thank First Parish of Arlington for lending it to us. Before we begin, if the folks watching from home would like to light a candle or chalice along with us here, please go and get one now so that we can do this ritual together in spirit. And now I'd like to introduce the chairman of our canvas this year, Roger, to say a few.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning. My name is Roger Garberg, and I serve on the Finance Committee here at the Gloucester UU. I've also, as a result, been involved in the annual canvass when we ask members and friends of the congregation to make financial commitment that sustain this spiritual house. So when you're doing this, I wonder, what does it mean to call this a spiritual house? Like any home, this one has ordinary practical needs. We have to heat it, which is very expensive, light it, insure it, clean it. Insuring it is also very expensive. Clean it, maintain the grounds, and keep the building safe. Those things are not especially poetic, but they're essential. A home that's not cared for can't shelter anybody for very long. But of course, this place is more than a building with bills to pay. It's where we try to realize a kind of world different from the one we often encounter in the news. A world with more compassion, more honesty, more justice, more courage, and more hope. We make that world here in many ways. We make it through pastoral care. We make it when we host music, theater, poetry, and conversations in this place. We make it when we listen to one another's struggles. We make it when we organize for social justice and environmental stewardship. We make it when we help one another make sense of difficult times without giving in to cynicism or despair. And we make it with staff and a minister who gathers all this varied activity into a shared purpose, building a community that protects diversity, practices mutual respect, and strengthens the habits of love which are essential for democracy. So sustaining this spiritual home for us and for Gloucester is a large and worthy project. The annual canvass is one of the main ways we take responsibility for taking on this project together. Each year the canvass asks, in effect, how much does this place mean to us? How far can we go together to provide what it needs? This year the congregation answered clearly and generously. You said, we need this kind of home, we value it, and we're ready to support it. You have more than covered the financial costs of sustaining it, leaving a small surplus for the first time in years that we can put to good use in the years ahead. Give yourself a hand. Yes. So I want to thank the members of the Canvas team who made a very successful pledge drive possible. Allison Rowell, Diane Faisler, Dick Prouty, Gail Seavey, Mern Sibley, and Peggy Kimball. And special thanks are due, of course, to Holly Tangway, who is our key co-leader in the canvas. So at the annual meeting, we'll look carefully at the numbers and what they might mean for next year's budget. Today, I simply want us to pause and recognize what we've done together. Through this canvas, we've sustained and strengthened one more spiritual home in the world, and the world is better for it. Pledges are not only financial gifts, they're expressions of trust, belonging, and responsibility towards one another. They say that this community matters and that we are willing to care for it. Personally, I found your generosity deeply moving, and I want to thank you again for doing this. Thanks.
Good morning. Hi, I'm the Reverend Tess Baumberger. I'm not usually the face you see up here because Reverend Janet is your minister, but on her behalf, I would like to welcome you. She's preaching at my place, the First Universalist Church of Essex. We're doing a pulpit exchange, which is an age-old tradition in both Unitarian and Universalist churches. So welcome to you, and I'm so happy to be here with you today, building connections between our two churches. I was really thrilled last year when we came up with the idea of the church swap, I guess you would call it, the Cape Ann Worship Exchange, where the various churches took one Sunday of each month of the summer and hosted all the other churches. I don't know about your folks, but my folks loved it. They loved meeting you and seeing your churches and hearing that there is so much in common. I don't know if you know about this, but your founding minister, the Reverend John Murray, during the Revolutionary War, decamped to Essex, and he lived there for a while, actually in the home of one of my current members, because there was a blockade in Gloucester, and he apparently preached universalism there. We know that because the congregational minister in Essex saw fit to write this fiery pamphlet about how universalism was wrong, wrong, wrong. So I think that your founding minister, John Murray, planted the seeds that became our church about 50 years later in 1829. So our congregations have, in fact, always been connected, and it's a real joy to be here today. For the call to worship, I want to talk about embracing possibility and curiosity. So these words: we gather as a community of spiritual seekers, always ready to awaken each other's curiosity in this beautiful, challenging, and complex world. May we enter our worship today with open minds, warm hearts, and spirits entranced with possibility of healing, of hope, of transformation, and of justice. Come, let us worship. Our opening hymn this morning is number 38 in the gray hymnal, Morning Has Broken. So we'll now have our chalice lighting. Yeah. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. Oh, I forgot. Work of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. So I spent several years, 8 years, working as a hospice chaplain in this area for All Care Hospice based in Lynn. And I wrote this prayer about how a dying person might pray for the people who are living. So I wanted to share the prayer with you because it's Memorial Day tomorrow, and I thought it's a time when we remember those who have gone. So I would share what I would imagine your deceased beloveds would have prayed for you. As my body begins to loose its hold on this life, this earth, this entirety, may I lay my past to rest and face the unknowable with courage and curiosity. May those to whom I am connected gather. May they recall me as I am and have been. May they forgive any forgivable harm I may have caused, every instance of neglect. May they release their own regrets as well. May they remember moments of laughter, times of affection and memory. May they laugh and cry as they tell stories of my words and actions, my character. May they know I am saying farewell too. May they sit quietly or listen to music. May they care for themselves and one another as I would have in my best moments. May kind people arrive to support them and to assist me on this starlit path. And when I move into that final mystery, may they comfort one another. May they each find a way to embody whatever they have learned from me. May they rise, stretch, heal, and live. We'll have a time of silent meditation. Response to our meditation is hymn number 352, also in the gray hymnal, Find a Stillness. You can remain seated or rise, whatever is your tradition. I've chosen a responsive reading to kind of close out this part that's in Memorial Day's part. It's in the back of your hymnal, number 720, We Remember Them. I will read the part that's in regular print and ask you to read the part that's in italics, number 720 in the back of the hymnal. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick of heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now part of us as we remember them.
We gather here in the sacred and beautiful place this morning, grateful to all those who came before us, who made this church possible through their generosity and their commitment. Each week we take up a collection to support, to practice generosity, one of our UU core values. We give to carry our church forward into the future and to support all of our work in the wider world. Our offering this morning will now be gratefully received. Blessings upon the givers and upon your gifts.
So I know it says the reading for this next part of the service is from your gray hymnal, but I want to tell you a story instead, because I think sometimes we learn from stories in a different way, or maybe even more than we learn from listening to a sermon. I certainly would have felt that as a child, and I still feel that way now. So this story is called Anansi and the Pot of Wisdom, and it's a story from Ghana, from Africa, about Anansi, who was this sort of trickster, like a coyote in the Native American tradition, or like Loki in the Norse tradition. He liked to play tricks on people. But often these tricks backfire. So Anansi is a storyteller, and he also listens to stories. So he heard this story that the sun god had this pot of wisdom that held all the wisdom of the world. And Anansi's like, So Anansi goes up to heaven, where, the sky, where the sun god is, and says to the sun god, I've heard you have this pot of all that holds all the wisdom of the world, and I really think you should share it with the people, because they're down there, they're kind of new, they don't know how to build houses, they don't know how to cook, they just kind of wandering around not knowing what to do. So I think you should share this pot of wisdom. And the sun god thinks about it and says, okay, yeah, you're right, Anansi, here's the pot, take it down. So Anansi brings the pot down to the earth and looks in it and is like, wow, there's so much wisdom in this pot. Ooh, I really like it. I don't want to share it either. And so he's like, where could I put it where nobody will get to it? If I put it on the ground, some animal's going to come along and stumble into it. Maybe I'll put it up in the tallest tree. So Anansi ties the pot of wisdom around him. He's a spider, so he's got lots of legs, and he's trying to climb up the tree, but it's really hard because he's got this big pot on his stomach. Like trying. One of his children is down at the bottom of the tree and says, Papa, why don't you put the pot of wisdom on your back instead of your front? It'll be easier to climb the tree. Anansi's like, good idea, child. So down the tree, moves the pot around to the back, starts climbing the tree. Oh, it's so much easier. Gets way to the top of the tallest tree and is about to put the pot of wisdom there when he goes, wait a minute. This pot is supposed to have all the wisdom of the world, but my kid just shared some wisdom with me that's not in the pot. So he got really, really angry, and he throws the pot down to the earth. And all the wisdom comes out and sprays all over the world, which is why everybody has a little wisdom, but nobody has all of it. So many Unitarian Universalist churches recite a covenant during the worship each week. It seems like you do. The first congregation I served up in Franklin, New Hampshire, used the one that is number 473 in our hymnal. It goes like this: Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So a few years into that ministry, I did a sermon series on that second part of the covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. First, I preached about that first phrase, to live together in peace, but I said, peace doesn't always mean quiet. Sometimes we need to disagree, and we can disagree helpfully and actually make ourselves stronger if we hold a sense of peace within ourselves that's based in our trust in each other and the strength of our relationships. I addressed the phrase to help one another in the third sermon of the series, but this is the second one, focusing on that pithy phrase, to seek the truth in love. That phrase holds three ideas that I think are central to our faith: seeking, truth, and love. So I'd like to look at those words in that order and talk to you a little bit more about them. Now, first comes seeking. Seeking the truth and love engages what I think is a core element of our Unitarian Universalist identity, that we're spiritually and religiously curious people. Now, you can read that one of two ways. Then we're kind of curious, like weird, which, yeah, we kind of are, but also curious that we are curious about things. Many of us were religious seekers when we first came here, and many of us continue to seek for truth even while we're here. One thing about this faith that appealed to us seekers was hearing about its theological diversity, that there's no one set of beliefs that you have to embrace in order to be Unitarian Universalist. So we have in our midst agnostics who don't know if there's a God or not, or what happens after we die. There are atheists who are sure there isn't a higher power and this is pretty much it. And we have theists who do believe that there is some higher power and have many beliefs about what comes after. People unfamiliar with our faith often wonder what holds us together if we believe such different things. One of my favorite elevator speeches about Unitarian Universalism is, well, we share a process of seeking truth and meaning, even though this process may take us in different directions theologically. The process does take us in different directions. We have people who identify as Unitarian Universalist pagans, as Buddhists, as Christians, as Jews, as Muslims, as humanists, to name a few. And some people, like me, change their label over time. I started out as a goddessy, earth-centered Unitarian Universalist, but now describe myself as Christian-ish. That is, I try to follow the teachings and example of Jesus, but I don't really believe that he was God. Sure, especially gifted, sure, but I struggle with the resurrection as an actual fact, that sort of thing. But of course, you may believe differently, and we can still be in the same faith, which is great. The practice of actively seeking, even after joining this faith, allowed me to shift my beliefs theologically while still remaining here, and I am grateful for that. I'm grateful for the religious curiosity that allowed me to keep exploring. In fact, one of the things that appeals to me most about Unitarian Universalism is the value we give to diversity of belief. Growing up on a farm in eastern South Dakota, the people I encountered there were all pretty much like each other. They kind of looked alike, they ate alike, they dressed alike, and they thought alike. Because I went to Catholic schools, they also seemed to believe alike. I didn't have a non-Catholic friend until high school. Growing up in this way made me love diversity. I love encountering people from different cultures and nationalities, ethnicities and perspectives, opinions and beliefs. I'm very curious about people who are different from me. I find that the more different they are from me, the more I can learn from them. They have different bits of wisdom, right? I love to learn how others see the world, how they think about it, what makes them tick. I think this is partly because it was clear how different I was from others when I was growing up as a kid. I clearly didn't fit in, and it turns out that many Unitarian Universalists see themselves as outsiders, as not quite fitting in, as marginal in some way. Marginality can be painful, but it also helps us to see different perspectives. So many years ago, there was a report that our denomination published called Engaging Our Theological Diversity. It's from our Commission on Appraisal, which studies various different matters of concern to the faith. It roused a lot of interest in the 3-year period where the study was happening. And then when the report was published, it sold out in a matter of weeks, which is really weird because usually the reports from the Commission on Appraisal sit dusty on the shelf. But it turns out that we're really curious about how curious we are. We are very interested in our theological diversity. That report was deep and rich and complex, which means it did justice to our faith. It spoke clearly about our religious culture as a community of seekers, and it held up the metaphor of the spiritual journey, which is so important to so many of us. It also held up our history as heretics, pointing out that the root of the word heretic means to choose. Our Universalist religious ancestors chose to believe that everyone would go to heaven, which was a heresy, and still is a heresy to Christians who believe that only they are going to get there, or insert other faith. Our Unitarian religious ancestors chose to believe that God was unitary or one, which is a heresy to Christians who believe in the Trinity. Heresy or choosing is encoded in our religious DNA. As good, faithful heretics, We choose various spiritual disciplines and paths and journeys. At times in our lives, we may arrive at crossroads where those paths intersect, and at different points, we may choose to head in a different direction, explore different paths that awaken our religious or spiritual curiosity. We are always welcome to grow, to change, to evolve in our spiritual lives. And we are also welcome to stay where we land. But the choice always belongs to each of us. And what also belongs to each of us is the responsibility to respect each other's paths of choice, no matter how different they are from our own, provided that those beliefs don't violate our values. To me, our identity as heretical choosing seekers captures a value of openness. We find here a spiritual home that is open to a variety of beliefs. Being heretical seekers means we remain open to new insights and possibilities through our religious lives. Ours is an evolving faith that transforms us even as we transform it. As we encounter others in our community who are exploring different paths, as we listen to their stories about what they have seen along the way, and as we come to understand their beliefs, we gain new insights that serve to open us, to transform us, and to lead us onward. They reawaken our spiritual curiosity. Seeking implies openness to varieties of truth. So now let's look at the second concept of the day, which is truth. Seeking the truth in love engages another core part of our religious identity, the right of individual conscience. This right has its roots in early American Unitarianism in the 19th century and Universalism in the 18th century, our two parent faiths which merged in 1961. Our liberal Christian ancestors believed that minds are important and that reason is important. They believed we can and should use thinking as part of our religious lives. They recognized that each of us reasons differently, and so they valued individual conscience. Neither of our parent faiths had a creed, which if any of you grew up in a church like I did that recited the creed every week, you know what that is. And I believe in, God, the Father Almighty, blah, blah, blah. The Universalist had an affirmation of faith which kind of danced around being a creed, but they always had an escape clause in it that said, well, if you believe something different, you're still welcome. So that allowed our theologies to broaden over time, and we carry on that tradition and owe much of the openness of our faith to those religious pioneers. We are an independent-minded lot, herding cats, you might say. We value our right to disagree with each other, with our ministers, and with our denomination's leaders, and that's cool. We value our right to think and believe and act differently, and that's cool, as long as we recognize that others have the right to disagree with us. The funny thing about valuing individual conscience in a religious community is that, like seeking, it leads to openness. By exercising our own right to believe as makes sense to us, we become increasingly centered and confident in our own truth. And as we become more centered and confident in our own truth, we become better able to hear the truths of others. Valuing individual conscience adds to the diversity of belief among us, which I love. And being able to appreciate an array of religious truths allows us to develop a complex and sensitive way of seeing matters of faith. Holding the different perspectives of diverse faith community allows us to develop religious reasoning skills, which we try to impart to our children, to become better informed and to mature as religious people. It's a good thing to come together and explore our different paths. So in the process of seeking truth together and sharing what we're learning, we start to recognize the ways in which we are both similar to each other and different from each other. We recognize, appreciate, and celebrate the ways in which we are both similar and different, and that strengthens the bonds of love between us. And that brings us to the last word in our phrase, to seek the truth in love, which is love. Now, it's possible for seeking truth to be a neck-up process that we experience in our heads more than our hearts or bodies. I like to describe my religious journey as a journey from my head to my heart, because my head sometimes feels like a less scary place to be, sometimes, not always. But perhaps less so than 30 years ago, Unitarian Universalists in general, we tend to live in our heads. There's an old joke that given the choice between going to heaven or going to a discussion about heaven, most Unitarian Universalists would choose the discussion. I think that has changed over the last few decades, but I think that's because we're being called to become a more heart-centered and embodied faith. Having our hearts involved in the process of seeking truth can help us as individuals. Our hearts seek religious truths and spiritual practices that comfort and heal and nourish us. Our hearts seek religious truths that open us to greater and deeper love. On our journeys, we encounter truths we experience in our hearts and feel in our bodies as well as in our minds. When you encounter a truth that rings true to your whole self, that's a truth to hold on to. The love or heart dimension of our faith helps heal us as individuals, and it also calls us to accept and encourage one another to grow spiritually. The love we feel for each other makes our communities into beloved communities. It creates a sense of spiritual homecoming. We create a sense of spiritual homecoming for each other. So the heart dimension of our faith speaks to me of home. Oops, I lost my place. To seek the truth and love does indeed call us to seek and to choose our own different paths, but it also calls us to choose this home, the home of our faith. It calls us here. It calls us to sit together in worship, in small groups, in classes, in committee meetings, and at our sacred coffee hour, which I joke is a sacrament of our faith, along with the holy potluck. Seeking the truth in love calls us home to share with one another what we're learning along the way. To seek the truth in love means not only finding truths that speak to our hearts and minds and bodies, but it also means to listen in order to understand each other. To seek the truth in love means to embrace and love our differences as well as our similarities. It can be very challenging to love someone who sees the world very differently from you. And it can be a joyous, moving, growing experience. To seek the truth in love calls us to follow the pattern and the movement of loving. And the movement of loving is always to open and to open and to open. Seeking the truth in love calls us to expand the circle of this, our loving home, to draw in others, to share with them the rich vision of embodied and diverse truths that we seek and we share in the spirit of love. We are faithful, fearless, choosing seekers. And this is our loving home. Let us seek and share our journeys toward truth in the spirit of respect, in the spirit of love, and in the spirit of our faith. To do this is to help one another and to live together in peace. To do this is to live our deepest values centered on love. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. So I understand that at this point you usually do a shared prayer. So I chose a prayer in the back of the gray hymnal, number 523. It's a prayer from India where we have Unitarian congregations up in the Khasi Hills and way northeastern India. Little churches that some of them have schools. So let's share together this prayer from India. Thou art the path and the goal that paths never reach. Thou feedest and sustainest all that one sees or seems. Thou art the trembling grass and the tiger that creeps under it. Thou art the light in sun and moon, the sounds fading into silence, and the sanctity of sacred books. Thou art the good that destroys evil. Our closing hymn is in the Teal hymnal, number 1064, Blue Boat Home. The first time we sang that hymn in the first congregation I served up in New Hampshire, the mother of a little boy who was like 5 years old came to me the next week, and she said, he memorized that song that one time we sang it, and he's been singing it all week. That's amazing what kids can do. Our closing words or benediction are words by Rainer Maria Rilke. Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books in a very foreign tongue. Do not seek the answers which cannot be given you, because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without even noticing, live along some distant day into the answer. Please join me in the unison extinguishing of the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of committee, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace.